controlled by whoever's making the better routing decisions. Also of note, look at these file names. Seems like Gem doesn't want to be nice to Ben today.
Well, it kind of seems that way, I guess. But apparently we're going to go fight Voldemort. And I guess I just named him, so Uncle is surely to be cursed and left in a sewer for the rest of this match. Only a blue rupee.
How many times do you summon him?
You know what, I never really got much into Harry Potter, so I'm going to take your word for that.
That was more a Beetlejuice reference, really.
Oh, well, there's another thing I never got into, so I'll take your word for that as well.
Oh, it's classic. You gotta see it. But the key message here is don't say Beetlejuice, and for a third time.
Oh, well, fair enough. I remember in, like, elementary school that was a thing, like, you don't say, like, bloody murder in front of the bathroom mirror or something, but the kids are impressionable. And we have Kano Samaria start from Uncle. As you know, at the start of this tournament, version 29 of the logic was released, and that introduced randomized weapons in the standard mode, so Uncle does not always give you a sword anymore. There's one of, I think, 7 items that you can get. I actually can't count them all offhand. Could name them all, but Kano Samaria being one of them, it's going to be one of the more interesting items, I think, just because of how creative you can get with the use of the block.
Yeah, you can push the block, throw it. You can even, kind of trick the enemies into walking directly into it. The key thing here is that it's a projectile, or basically an ancilla, as you might call it in the game's disassembly, but it has limited magic use, so we have to be very careful about where we're using this weapon, and try to supplant our attacks with some pot throws as well, so we can get that bomb for the back half of escape.
Yeah, definitely. Depending on the strategy that the runners choose for how they execute with the Kano Samaria, the block itself can withstand 3 or 4 hits on its own, so you can use that multiple times instead of depleting your magic. And there we have Gem getting 2 hits with the block itself, Ben looking to get all 3, having a little bit of trouble with this first blue guard. But there we go. So for those of you that were around for Race 1, I hope that it was every bit as fantastic as I expect that it was. A couple highlights that I was made aware of were that they did not find their first lift upgrade until they were able to get to the back of Escape a second time. And by that I mean they didn't get a bomb drop their first time through Escape, so they needed to walk all the way through the sewers portion again just to get into that back room to get their first lift upgrade. Certainly an inconvenience and not something that you want to see. Another noteworthy point was that they apparently had Master Sword as Go mode.
Oh no, that's terrible. That sounds a lot like my first tournament loss, though, which is my very first race. Had trouble finding that lift upgrade because I didn't get that bomb and escape. So we're hoping that they get this bomb. Prize packs are going to be the same groups of enemies as they are in vanilla prize packs. However, the actual contents are randomized. So we'll see how many enemies we can kill. You have a 50% chance of dropping any particular drop from most enemies. And we'll find out, but half magic's really handy to have here.
Ow.
Also, when it rains, the Kano Samaria pours out death and destruction. We have twice as many shots to work with, meaning we can start firing with random abandon at this point.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you think that 16 shots with the fire rod would be overkill, I mean, you haven't had a chance to play around with Kano Samaria and half magic in Escape. I think this is the first time I've ever seen half magic in Escape with a magic wielding item from Uncle. So really, really interesting, endless possibilities. There's no real concern about not being able to kill enough enemies to get a bomb. Which, yeah, I mean, that's going to be on our runners' minds. How many snakes or how many of the rats is it going to take before we find one?
Yeah, and those are separate prize packs as well, so it benefits us to just keep killing all of them. Very unlikely that we'll get through all of the prize packs in one go.
Yeah, and certain enemies, I believe the snakes and the green guards actually share a prize pack. So,
yeah,
for example, yep, they could help advance that along as well. But the number of snakes that are coming up through sewers, if it's going to be in that prize pack, there's a good chance we'll see it, I would have to think.
Yeah, and based on what can be actually in the prize packs themselves, it's possible to not even be able to get a bomb, but it's pretty unlikely.
All we can do is see. We just got to maintain that hope. That's one of my least favorite things, to have to come back here for any reason. But yeah, no, it doesn't happen too often. It's fairly common. We'll see what happens in this first snake room. Looks like it would have been good RNG otherwise to just walk through, which is always what you're hoping for, but you need to take this time to kill them. And we're only getting 20 rupees out of it. Not bad. We can definitely put that toward the purchase of some bombs, but...
Yeah, Ben taking a little more time to do his farming, not finding bombs. They find a bomb bag upgrade, though.
I mean, that's like, kind of what you're looking for, but definitely not at the same time. Jen deciding to just head straight through this first, literal sewer room, not taking care of any of the rats that like to huddle in the top right corner. Let's see what Benteezy does. He's gonna follow the same play. To pick up that small key nice and easily.
Yeah, these are curious choices given their first match. Both of them probably thinking, hey, my opponent probably didn't get any either, so might as well just head through.
Hey, you never know. We got one rat left on Jem's side. Only yielding 10 more arrows, so not gonna be it this time. Perhaps reminiscent of Race 1. Memories of that fresh in their mind. They're like, we'll just come back later. It's not even worth it for now.
And we've exhausted our kills. Benteezy is working through his last couple rats now and actually has half a heart to work with.
Even taking a little bit of damage there. Not quite finishing him, though. Picks up that fairy, which we saw on Gem's screen a moment ago as well. So the rat prize pack has been shuffled through pretty well. And we got our first map check. We have 2 regular crystals in the light world at Eastern and Desert. And then I believe it was the blue pendant up at the Tower of Hera.
That looked correct to me, and your eyes scan the screen pretty quickly. I only caught Hera, so I mean, I'm impressed by that. We also get a Fisher-Price shield in the Sanctuary, but it's time for us to get some information. We've got a tree pole to check here and the bush crab.
Just another 10 arrows. It's been lots of 10 arrows, but we're still waiting on that bomb drop. And yeah, the map check is kind of an interesting thing for me, because I have a little bit of like an OCD with it where I need to see like the actual numbers too and write those down, but I've kind of learned recently to just look for the color of it and designate what's what just from that.
Fair enough. Well, so we find a heart container, possibly Sank Heart, in the Lumberjack Cave. I gotta think, well, see, maybe Benteezy has God Vision, realizes he doesn't even want the... Oh no, he's doing another tree pull. Really smart play. So just to kind of explain that, the first time around, we've already killed 4 enemies, and we've taken damage, so that's a tier 2 pull. If we had gone through the entire escape taking no damage, we'd get tier 3. But if you pull the tree after killing 1 to 3 enemies after their first pull, you'll get tier 1. So Benteezy checked both of them.
Yeah, very efficient use of that, and with his knowledge of NMG, he understands it very, very well and was able to sort of take care of that and get that thorough check out of the way. Meanwhile, nothing of value, nothing of interest throughout the Lost Woods. An arrow upgrade and a heart piece, as Ben saves and quits out, and we're seeing a route divergence already.
Yeah, this is an uncommon one, but he's going to make his way to Kakariko while checking things south of Kakariko, so he's just going to come through in a different direction, possibly hoping to go north Light World afterwards?
Possibly. Sure. I think he's going to check these bushes, though, for a bomb drop. There's 2 bushes there that have a 50% chance of it. Very common play that you'll see at the beginning of an open mode seed. Not something that I've seen in Standard, so very interesting. Meanwhile, Gem just going to purchase bombs as it is.
So Benteezy's sinking a little bit of time into it, but he gets his 2 free bombs, potentially saving rupees that Gem may end up having to spend. Well, he already spent 50 of them. Possibly going to be able to check bottle vendors sooner than Gem.
We got 300 rupees on the maze game. I wonder if Ben's going to take that, actually. It seems like it would be a very good pickup, but sometimes gambling on just finding rupees naturally as you go is the way to go. And there he goes, walking right by the library, remembering there's an item here, I need to take a look. And just another heart piece.
Yeah, but the intel definitely worth it, and you're not going to lose any time over checking it compared to the other direction.
No, definitely. A single arrow in the bottom of the well. One of our dense Kakariko locations, 5 items to check just in this one alone. Moon Pearl being the most notable so far. Couple extra bombs, always nice.
Yeah, it's always good to get bomb refunds, and we do still have that bomb bag upgrade, so we're not going to waste any bombs just yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's where that is coming in handy. Otherwise, we would have been at our capacity already.
Also of note, neither of our runners doing a chicken clip. I'm slightly disappointed, but it's a safety thing.
Yeah, there's always that chance. I'm not actually sure how it works exactly of picking up an invisible chicken and then you're just celebrating for the rest of the time. You can't do anything. However, speaking of celebrations, what did we just find on Gem Screen?
Yeah, what are our chances of also finding bow and flips in the Thieves hut? Plus, Blue Goo is going to give us Sick Kids, so we're replete with new progression here.
Yeah, definitely. One of the best things to find, I think, in Kakariko, not the bow, not the flippers, but a bottle, just so that you can ensure a full clear of the village your first time through. And Benteezy actually making really good use of this refill house.
Yeah, he just got 8 bombs, and he's going to go back in for even more.
Yep, the room resets every time. Those 4 corner pots always have a single bomb under them. Definitely not bad. Efficient routing. He doesn't have 50 rupees to purchase bombs anyway, so he's definitely thinking ahead in that regard.
I can just imagine, well, there's a life lesson here from Bottle Vendor, getting 20 rupees as a rebate, but I can just imagine that being the difference for Zora. It would be kind of crazy if that actually paid off in that regard.
I can't think of the last time that Zora actually paid off. He's just there, he's money hungry, 500 rupees a pop, here you go, have 10 back. So I'm feeling generous. That's what he says most of the time. There is no actual 10 rupee thing, so he can't actually do that. That was an exaggeration.
I understood what you meant, though, but I did actually see recently my favorite Zora item. I actually saw silvers, and that was actually worth the trade.
Not sure what the current rate is on silver, but I mean, 500 rupees worth of silver has gotta be worth it.
Hard to say what's more valuable, the 10 rupee upgrade to tempered or the 500 rupee upgrade to silvers, pure DPS stats-wise. I mean, I think Fighter Sword would be considered 1 damage and tempered 8, and then silvers do 100.
This is true. It all calculates somehow. I'm not really in the math mindset at the moment.
Me neither. However, Gem absolutely is going to pick up those gems on the race ledge. Race game going to give him 300, so that's a big chunk towards Zora. South Shore, though, if it has more than 120, so maybe 123 rupees, I think we would absolutely go get Zora. Yeah. We're heading towards Eastern.
Definitely. And you know, while we're still a little bit short on rupees, Eastern has a room that has 90 and it just sitting on the floor. So that'll put us quite a bit closer to that Zora money anyway.
Yeah, we'd have to do it in the dark at this point, but if we find Lamp, and that's actually not that unlikely for how few areas we actually can access right now, you know, Lamp's probably going to be somewhere pretty close by. But if we do find it, then, you know, it's going to be a lot easier to farm in there. But in the dark, that's a tough room to do.
That is true. And you've got anti-fairies running around, you've got 3 hearts at this point. Doesn't even matter what color mail we would have, because the anti-fairies are going to do that full heart either way.
Well, this is a place where, I mean, I know Gem obviously had good execution last race in order to be able to beat Benteezy. You know, both these guys are obviously very good at the game, but Benteezy does regularly practice this game without saying cards, so maybe that's an advantage here in Eastern Palace.
Definitely could be. I mean, that dark room with the Igors is still going to be a little bit tricky. You don't have the Sword Twinkle to kind of guide your way around. You do have Samaria, though. That could actually come in handy really, really well to take care of those popos. Just kind of let the block drop and wait for them to move into it. But we'll see how they choose to handle it. I'm actually pretty intrigued by this.
Yeah, thankfully you can actually see the Cane of Samaria block in the dark, so that absolutely, that's like a good marker to use. I never really considered that, but I mean, even that and climbing Death Mountain in the dark, that would be useful there as well.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, otherwise, this is a crystal dungeon, so even though it's not in sequence without the lamp, which still has a possibility of being here, very good to get out of the way right away. Get that first crystal, hopefully sub 20, barring any sort of issues in the dark rooms.
Well, we can access a lot of this dungeon without the lamp until we get to the right side. We're finding the big 20 early on, so that's an easy item to check. We only wish we had the hook shot to get there a little quicker.
That's got to be one of my favorite short time saves, I think, out of any dungeon. Having the hook shot there to just go right across.
And it's clearly the one thing the developers never would have thought, you know, like original developers of this game. Like, nobody's going to have hook shot here, so...
No, nobody's ever going to randomize the game. Why would they do that?
But hey, I mean, it worked out pretty well for our favor.
Oh, definitely. There's the lamp anyway, so crisis averted. We're just going to be able to see everything instead, and that'll be just fine.
I'm working on a theory here that commentators, because of how many times they see matches and talk about them, they build an algorithm in their head and automatically know where these places are. It's a subconscious thing.
You know, it's weird how the subconscious can work, because I've even had seeds where it's like, I'm just hoping to find the boots, and then like 3 or 4 chests later, it's like, oh wow, there they are. And I don't know, call it commentator's curse or whatever, there's always that coincidence where it happens. Everybody's had it happen.
That clairvoyant moment when you realize, oh, of course, flippers are in their vanilla Turtle Rock location.
Yes.
Version 29, right?
Of course, and the Ether Medallion to get into Turtle Rock is in its vanilla Ice Palace Big Key chest, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And for some reason, Misery Meyer's medallion requirement is always right under the doormat in the shed.
Yes. And I'm realizing, too, my example with Ether doesn't even make sense, because if flippers are in Turtle Rock, then the Turtle Rock access can't be in a flipper lock location. But, whatever. It's logic. I don't do the logic. I just play.
Fair enough, and you are in the brackets for being good at the game, so I can't argue with that.
Was in the brackets. Bad things happened.
Hey, I mean, even then, to make it that far, you had to get to, you know, a positive record to begin with. I went 2-5 myself. So, with these runners, though, they're having pretty standard Eastern Palace, slight diversion from a bad losing record here. No, but I mean, they've managed to handle everything pretty well so far. Jem did really well in the dark room, making it his way through Zelda Gamer Room. Benteezy having no issues at all, because after all, we did find that lamp.
Yeah, without the lamp, those popos can be a little bit obnoxious, because their pattern is pretty much completely random. I don't believe that they have any sort of set paths that you can manipulate. And then finding that Igor in the dark can be a little bit difficult. Only having 3 hearts, again, Igor's being one of those enemies that don't really care about what clothes you're wearing. They're going to do a full heart to you no matter what, so that can be a very dangerous room in the dark.
Well, we see top right strats for Jem having a little bit of a kerfuffle there with one of those Armos, and that got kind of close to taking a fall there, but gets punished with the worst meringue.
I was just going to call it a stick that someone painted red, but that's fine too.
I mean, a stick in the mud, we're not far off.
No, it's similar enough. I mean, it's not Swamp Palace, it's not quite in... There's no mud at Swamp Palace anyway. It's actually very clean-looking waters. I don't know why it's called Swamp.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I'm just as bewildered now that you mentioned that, because, I mean, we have a water temple in this series, just not, you know, interesting.
I mean...
Interesting.
Misery Mire is more of a swamp. Yeah, I mean, even to a degree, Pod looks like some sort of a dried-out swamp. But either way, looks like Jem is going to head to the South Shore stuff now. Neither one of our runners have done that. Having the bow, making that beeline straight over to the Eastern Palace area and Sahasrah's house. Very efficient use of the equipment that they had. We'll finally take a look at what's down in this dense location. It's the heart piece for now.
Yeah, so that's the first set that we've managed to finish. Every time you finish a heart container with your heart pieces, you will actually get a full health refill. So kind of handy to have a 3 out of 4 walking into, say, a difficult dungeon.
Yeah, because you never know where they could be. There's plenty of them in the game, one of the more common items. And even if you see some in the overworld and you deliberately avoid them, you're going to wind up picking up many, many as you go as it is. What there are not many of, though, are swords. There's only 4 of them, and we just found our first one. Nice and early, so that's got to feel good.
Hey, I mean, we gotta, you know, get a towel out so we can dry that soggy sword, but absolutely gonna put it to use right away. Mini Molderum Cave will probably use it. I mean, we could potentially use bomb strats.
Yeah, bombs, Arcane, and Samaria. It looks like we're gonna do a little bit of all of the above, except for Samaria.
Gem did that really nice.
Yeah, that was very, very efficient. The Multorms on the left cooperated to get the double kill with the bomb. And we have a second sword already, too.
So, rewarded with Agahnim Troll?
I mean, it's entirely within the logic at this point. And having the flippers, all that we need is a hook shot, and then we could go across the river. So yeah, options are interesting at this point. We gotta finish off these couple of things with Ice Rod Cave, Zora, and the Hobo are all in logic.
Kind of interesting to see Gem not check Lake Hylia Island, but instead opt to swim all the way over here. I think walking might have been a little bit quicker.
You know, it's interesting because you've got the patches of shallow water, so sometimes you come out of the water and walk a little bit, or you could just walk all along. I know swimming itself is a little bit faster, but having to take such an oblong path, it might cancel out a little bit.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You can actually pump through water. That's actually a thing.
Well, how like the same way that you would pump on land, like with directionals, or?
I think it's very similar.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to do with that. I mean, I'm sure in the interview we'll be able to ask Gem and Benteezy, but I know Benteezy knows about it, but there's some minor optimizations in that regard.
Huh, well that's cool to know.
Kind of like using hammer to control your ice physics.
Fair. Yeah, having that be very similar to the way the sword works on it. So Gem getting bodied by a very, very friendly Zora, saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to show you this portal. It takes you to a fun place. But we're just going to come straight back through. So now we know how portals work in the game. And there, yeah, Gem's going to take a look at the island on his way up to the Hobo. Just a shield.
And personally, my favorite shield upgrade, I mean, fireballs I think are more annoying than anything else. I'm never really in a position where I'm like, okay, I need to reflect lasers. I'd rather do the laser burst skip anyway.
I can agree with that. Fireballs are certainly more common than lasers. And that laser skip is just so much fun to do.
Yeah, man, you gotta go fast. But we're getting a bacon medallion, also known as Quack or Quake, here under the bridge. Gotta think the travelers over atop the bridge a little concerned about all the earthquakes.
You know what? Between you and me and all of chat, I don't know that these guards that Agahnim hired really pay much attention to it.
Yeah, only one of the three even noticed that you were swimming away from it, so not really cognizant of those earthquakes. But at least that one guard, the blue one, apparently the captain of that crew, did shout at you. He was yelling from the ledge.
Well, if he's not the captain, he certainly should be after that. That deserves a promotion. And speaking of promotions, we just got an empty bottle and a 5-bomb upgrade.
We're finding all the bottles.
And all the bomb upgrades, apparently.
Yeah, at this point we can carry at least 20, maybe 25?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Nice to see the stun pack, too. I don't know if you caught that or not. It looked like a single bomb. That's always a good one to keep in mind if you wind up being short on bombs later. Nothing on the ledge, and not having the money to go and actually make the purchase.
You know, something that was a little confusing to me, I don't know if you noticed that, but the file names being Ben and Gem, kind of, well, they're inverted, so I was a little confused looking at their save and quit there.
Yeah, they could play a little bit of a mind game with you, I guess. But, wow, you know what? Let's recap real quick. We've cleared basically all of the Light World locations that we can. Oh, and this is exactly like their first match, where they're going to go all the way back through Escape and get to the back room. Because at this point, that's their only way to get back there. One other place that I can think of nobody has checked is Agahni's Cave in the desert.
Yeah, and it's very common for runners to avoid that, like the plague. That's a very low percentage chance location, but interestingly enough, some weird menuing. Like Benteezy was a little bit ahead of Gem walking into the escape or back into it, but some strange menu, you know, caused Gem to take a lead.
Yeah, and you can see Ben too taking some intentional damage, presumably to set up a death warp after checking those locations in the back. Now, here's the interesting point. It makes sense to not go and check Agahni's Cave right now, because you would need either a lift upgrade, or I'm sorry, 2 lift upgrades or a lift upgrade and the hammer to have Dark World access. That's only one location. That's not going to do that. What if you find the hammer or a lift upgrade in the back here? Do you go to Agahnim Cave before doing the tower?
I mean, if you can save, the tower climb, but you can't in this situation. We didn't find anything of value back here.
Doesn't make any bit of difference. I mean, a little bit of money that could put Zora back in logic, but honestly, this seems like the more sensible play. And Jem coming in here with much more health, still being able to knock himself out first.
Yep, one of those situations where opening a chest and picking up a bomb happen to be the same button, and bomb takes priority.
Well, at this point then, we're going to see a very sensible play up to Aghanim's tower from both runners. And this is going to immediately allow us to see what's on the pyramid, check our Dark World map. And then if we really want to, we can go into the Palace of Darkness. Aside from that, we don't have any other options right this moment if they can decide to pursue anything in the Dark World.
It's interesting that neither of our runners have considered the sequence break of going up Death Mountain. There's potentially a few items there, but we don't have a mirror, so I think that might be influencing it. If we had Hookshot, we'd also have a reason to go a little further up, but being that it's an item or two, not as valuable.
Right, I mean, not even having a lift upgrade, we can't actually get there just yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. We don't have food, so yeah, you have to get that stone. I completely forgot about that.
Hey, that happens. One time I forgot that you needed hammer to get into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I can see that one. It's almost as bad as forgetting that you can technically get hammer at Magic Bat.
You can, yes, by mirroring straight in. That would not be a situation I want to see. Or if I do see it, I don't want to be the one playing it.
Well, I mean, it happens, but the rage slashes people were laughing at, so I think I won that day.
Oh, that happened to you.
Yeah, that was the match I was talking about earlier. But enough about that. This Aghanim's Tower climb, very fun section to watch. This is execution heavy. It's very much like Ganon's Tower, just light. And Benteezy's showing some flair here, getting through a lot of these rooms quicker than Jem. Although we have some really interesting rooms up ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Nice to have a few arrows at our disposal. We can take out these red guards pretty easily. Nice 8 bomb drop from the red guard as well. And there we have Benteezy triggering these 2 red guards right away, getting a double spin on 1. Very, very efficient.
Well, yeah, bad RNG with the patrol route for this red guard here. Both of them did, but Jem opting to stun the first one's going to get through a lot smoother.
Benteezy knowing where these recovery hearts are under the pots, though. Going to take one as a little bit of insurance just to get through the rest of the tower.
Yeah, this is a pretty close, health situation. 1.5 and 2 hearts respectively. Not that we're likely to take a lot of damage from Agahnim, but blue balls sometimes mess with you.
Oh no! Oh my, he got hit going down too! Oh, thank you, JP 1.0 cart. 1 heart of damage from the fall, another half of a heart from the guard on the way down the fall.
Yeah, so to kind of explain why that is, this is patched in international releases, but in the 1.0 version, you could still take damage while falling into a pit. That means you can also get picked up by a floor master, so Benteezy's gonna have to restart his tower. That's really rough. Yeah,
I mean, unfortunate to see. The good side is that it's not going to take him too long to get back up. He knows what he's doing. He's already got any of these rooms unlocked that would need to be unlocked, so it's just a matter of walking through, taking care of the guards. Apparently he wants to go get that small key a second time anyway. He's very, very determined.
Yeah, that's muscle memory for both this and NMG. Can't blame him there.
No, not one bit. No matter what it is, like where in the game, I should say. Like, for example, the room just south of the big chest in Desert Palace. There's 2 pots there that NMG runners always get with the arrows, and I mean, whether you need to actually pick them up or not, your arrows can be full. It's pretty likely, as one example, that those are 2 pots that you're still going to pick up.
Well, speaking of low health situations, Jem here with just a heart left in his Agahnim fight also needs to mind his health, as he's still got a few more hits to take here, or to give.
And I have not been counting blue balls, I will admit. So I'm not sure where we're at on that, but I don't think it's too many.
I want to say that was 3, but I've never been good at counting that one. you know, we're always talking about different stuff, and then some people do actually pay attention to how many lightning cycles there are. That's usually the easiest way to remember. Oh, Benteezy got a double heal off of that boomeranged heart, though. That was awesome.
Oh, very nice.
That can very rarely happen when you throw a boomerang. You can... Whoa, is that Boots?
That is Boots.
So, folks, 30 minutes into the race, the run can start.
The literal run? It was just a walk before this. I just ruined your joke by explaining it.
Not a problem. I've made it too many times.
So, doesn't actually allow us to get over the river whatsoever. Let's take a look at the map. We have green pendant at Ice Palace, red pendant at Misery Mire, swamp and deeps down the Pyramid Fairy Crystals. So interesting to note that, yeah, the boots are not going to really help us get into any extra areas in the Dark World, so we're stuck with the pod play for the moment. Only other option that he could do is go back to Bonk Rocks in the Light World. Which, speaking of, Benteezy did not actually check what was in the Lumberjack tree, so once he's done with this fight and picks up the boots, that might be something that's right on his mind.
Now, if he blind checks it, he may be upset because it may end up being Sankard, and we all know he loves to skip Sankard.
Ah, that might be a shame.
Well, we'll see if Benteezy gets double trolled here by Agahnim. We're hoping not.
Well, let's see, what's here? We have a small key, so we're not going to be going to the right side immediately, at least I assume not. Not having the hammer makes the right side a little bit less appealing to go to. Not having the mirror either to quickly get back here.
Yeah, the long road is either a long walk or a very slow death. Although we do only have 6 hearts, this is relatively low health scenario to be in here. I mean, it's familiar territory for anybody doing the speed run, but well, skipping Sankard or doing like the practice hack.
Yeah, that's true. So any death warp we may need may not be too much of a time sink. Too bad we throw this bomb here, blow up the floor, head north, check out the vanilla big key chest location. Drop right down and then see what's there. 5 items in the Palace of Darkness, 5 unique non-dungeon items that we'll be able to get. And that's an interesting one.
Yeah, the first one, an illegal stash of a controlled substance, possibly going to give us an item at the Witch. Sometimes it's junk, though, so routing that in is kind of interesting. If we find mirrors, say, here in the Palace of Darkness, we would want to pair that with the catfish. That would actually be a really great combination.
That would be. Like, you know, at this point, though, catfish is still not even accessible. Not without that lift.
Yeah, I don't even lift, bro, apparently. That's twice in a row I've forgotten important rocks.
See, I'm trying to piece this together, though, because for me, whenever I see the powder, or I'm sorry, the mushroom, and I have the cane of Samaria, I'm thinking, I want a fake powder. Can't even do that without the hammer, so may need to turn that in just to get the hammer. That's actually something that happened to me fairly recently, so you just never know. And Gem doing a great job setting up that death warp along the way. Those spikes in that moving floor room, that's the official name, by the way, I just coined it, doing a full heart of damage, so fairly easy to get that health down.
Also, we've checked everything in the front half and a half, I suppose, of the dungeon, if you want to call the right side the front half. We're making our way towards the collapsing bridge, and Benteezy's about 2 minutes separated from Gem right now, or so. And everything's been linear, so we can, you know, pretty fairly say that. I'm kind of curious if either of our runners will consider a hammer jump today.
That'd be an interesting one to consider. I think the go-to for that depends on where you find the big key, honestly. Which
I don't see it here in the basement for dead value.
So, blue rupee and a small key in the rupee basement. You know, I'm almost a little surprised, too, to not see Gem picking up those extra rupees, possibly considering a Zora play at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a very great opportunity to catch up with those rupees, but we get a bug net. These are not the best items to find.
No, it's going to make you really start wondering where the progression is. I mean, if it's not here, then we've got to consider, what, 4 spots that are within logic in the light world that are all very spread out, too. I mean, we've got, I guess, Bonk Rocks and the Witch's Hut aren't terribly spread out, but I mean, none of them are directly next to each other.
I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to find a book in one of the remaining item locations, and that's going to put us towards the desert.
Let's see, here's the last check that we can even do here. It's the map, so no, progression is somewhere in the light world still. Very interesting.
Yeah, Gem definitely not hanging around to contemplate his next move. Immediately saving quitting to the Sanctuary, presumably Bonk Rocks.
You know, I think that's the quickest location out of what's available, so definitely a good play. It's all about, like, the chests per minute thing. It has always been, like, my mentality on this. And this one's right here, right next to Sanctuary. It is a bomb upgrade. We're finding even more of those.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to run out once we find, you know, say an 8-stack somewhere. Benteezy, I think that was intentional. He walked right into that turtle, taking a death warp here in Palace of Darkness.
And I'm wondering if Gem might be second-guessing what he saw on the Lumberjack ledge. I think it was only that full heart container.
That is correct. Possibly wagering for a Sanctuary heart, but I'm inclined to agree with your supposition there.
It was not a Sanctuary heart, so sorry to say, that's still out there. We might find it by surprise at some point.
Benteezy will not be debated by that one today. I don't know what it is about that guy, but seriously, like I just think it's the craziest thing that he skips Sanctuary Heart in every NMD run.
You know, that could even just be a routine thing. When you're so used to doing something, you just keep doing it.
Yeah, I do understand the philosophy behind it. A lot of folks out there will say that, you know, if you're forced to do the riskier strats, you're going to be better at it overall by practicing it. You know, like you're less likely to take damage because you can't afford to.
That's fair, and he's definitely, I mean, unfortunately having these couple of deaths in this does not speak to his overall execution by any stretch of the imagination. He's just fine with damage management and whatnot, as we still don't find our progression.
You know, Gem possibly contemplating that Palace of Darkness dark room where he did not pick up those rupees. I mean, no lift upgrade, not a lot of easy places to farm right now.
No, definitely not. I mean, Blind's Basement would be one of the most accessible locations, and even that is slow. Can't go that way either, unfortunately. There's no way to get to the King's Tomb. Only two options right now, correct me if I'm wrong, please, are Zora, which neither runner has enough money for, Ben not even close, because he didn't pick up the money from the race game, and Agahnim Cave. Those are the only two that I can think of.
Yeah, so Benteezy definitely, well, he should know that it's at the race game. He did look. If he decides to try and figure out Zora, you know, pretty soon, that would be somewhere he would probably check or at least take care of in short order. Gem possibly looking for a Houlihan?
Houlihan. I mean, when you're short on cash, well, yeah, I guess that makes more sense. That's much better than Blind's Basement. What was I thinking? Either way, he's got enough money now. Benteezy deciding to take the warp near the swamp and head up to the mushroom spot. For a moment, I thought he was going to head to desert and check Agahnim Cave, but we'll see one of our two remaining locations in just a moment, as soon as Gem gets there.
Yeah, it's not as painful now to check Agahnim Cave, just simply having those boots. We can get there a lot quicker, but it's still a time sink, and if you're not ready to go into desert, if you don't have what you need to get there, not always the best gambit to be making, but here comes that scam lord himself, Zora. How bad of a trade is it
this time? What are you thinking? I mean, first off, it doesn't really matter where we're going to find it at this point. What do you think we're going to find? Glove seems like it would be one of the most logical, I think, because it would open up Death Mountain. But what if, you know, I don't know, Hammer would be another viable option.
It would have to lead to a glove somewhere else, though, because otherwise, you know, we wouldn't have what we need. We find a heart.
Heart container. Agahnim Cave's gonna be the play.
Yeah, beyond that, I can't think of anything else we can do here. Although Benteezy will exhaust his options here, remembering that he did have the boots for the Lumberjack tree, which he did not actually check. He checked it, but no, he didn't check it, did he?
No, he never actually took a look at it. He went through the Lost... No, did he even do... Yeah, he went through the Lost Woods and then saved and quit out of there to start from Link's house. So this is his first time seeing that. That is a blind check on Lumberjack Cave. We'll see blue mail on the desert ledge. Probably something that both of our runners are going to skip as well.
So I suppose by not checking Lumberjack Cave earlier, Benteezy did save some time over Gem on that. Well, here it comes. This is the item. It is going to be the power glove.
It is the glove. Okay, so for the immediate play, what does that open? Death Mountain for sure. That might actually be it.
Yeah, no Dark World portals are available to us because of it, except for the one at the top of the mountain. Nothing that we were really blocked behind. I mean, we already had Zora access. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, so that opens up the old man's location as well as inside of Spectacle Rock. So at this point, that's only 2 more things that we can do. One of those 2 things is going to have something else. At this point, Mirror or Hookshot would be really ideal. We could find... You know, Hammer alone is something that we could find, which would open up Village of Outcasts. That would allow us to get to the Hype Cave area. We could find Titan's Mitts. We could find another glove here. Who knows?
I was gonna say if the old man has the Titan's Mitts, if I'm flipping tables, that's way too close together.
It would be amusing to me. Let's see. Let's see. Oh my gosh!
You're gonna have to excuse me for just a
moment. Well, rip your table, and all tables in a 5-mile radius. That's a lot of tables for those of you keeping score at home. Let it out, it's okay. And we have just a bomb upgrade and a 20 rupee inside and on top of Spectacle Rock, respectively. You see what I did there? So let's go to the Village of Outcasts, shall we?
Absolutely. Lots of the world suddenly available to us in a rather fast flurry of item finds. So Benteezy's going to be a little behind to find these things, but Gem, realizing that this is now King's Tomb, plus those boots, I'm going to dive right into there.
You know, chat making a really interesting point, actually. Having the glove be accessible the whole time, and then I'll get to that in just a moment. I am not letting that one go. And then the Titan's Mitts, and now the hammer, of all things. This is not an Agahnim. Agahnim was not required.
So while we have the benefit of seeing that these racers are effectively neck and neck at this point, actually, both of them probably feel behind.
Oh, for sure. When something's in the last spot that you're checking, I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. You're not happy. I mean, I have to hope at this point they're just laughing at the situation, because it's not... so much of Randomizer 2 is a mental game, and you don't want to get caught up behind it, especially when you're fighting for your tournament life.
So it looks like Gem just got Hammer. Where did he just find that?
That was in King's Tomb.
Yes.
Immediately locked behind Titan's Mitts. And there's the Fire Rod.
Immediately locked behind the Hammer, locked behind the Titan's Mitts, locked behind the Game's
Cool.
Game.
And the Shovel immediately locked behind the hardware store.
And finally, to cap it all out, to make it truly a hype cave, the best meringue.
It all comes around. Oh my. I'm trying to take this in. This looked hopeless in terms of where the items are going to be, and now it's just like one extreme to the other. Total ends of the spectrum here on this race.
Also, this is opening up the floodgates. I guess if you were counting spheres as far as item logics go, wow, is that silvers?
That was. So spheres or spears?
The skewers?
That makes me hungry now. Kinda want some kebabs.
Yeah, I can second that motion.
Alright, that's
however,
all
if
I
you
need.
dig that, you might need to try a few times here. Shoutouts to Merkin in chat being our tracker today, pointing out that his job just got a lot more difficult all of a sudden.
Well, with the slow item start, at least that proves that he hasn't fallen asleep. He's still with us, doing a great job keeping these items up to date for us now.
Not asleep percent strats. Gotta love it. Also, there's a lot of things that we can do that are convenient routing. Gem, if he had the mushroom, could have done the smith very quickly. Or not the mushroom, the mirror. But can still take him on a world tour. Gonna have to take care of a couple of things first here in Village of Outcasts, but I have to imagine that's on the table shortly thereafter.
Definitely could be something he'll put on the back burner. Right now, I mean, if I was in that position, the thing on my mind would be clear Thieves Town, clear Skull Woods. They're both crystals. We've got everything necessary to do it. And Benteezy immediately heading over to King's Tomb as well. He'll get his hammer. And then I wonder where, you know, everybody has a different preference on where they enter the Dark World from, whether it be the Village of Outcasts area or the Swamp area. And
I'm a big fan of doing Swamp area.
I mean, he wasn't saving and quitting out, so I gotta assume that he's just gonna head immediately west. Unfortunately, he's gonna miss out on his Fire Rod for now then. So that is going to put Gem at a pretty definitive definitive advantage, say it, DT, for the next few minutes at least.
Yeah, and then of course it may influence the choices that, you know, our runners make. Gem will obviously be more inclined to jump into Skullwood sooner. Benteezy may opt to, well, he may even opt to check it twice. And in that case, that'd be even more of a time loss for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always that possibility. I know a lot of runners, when they enter from the Village of Outcasts, they like to check Skullwoods first and then kind of route south. So the fact that he's not doing that, perhaps he's not considering it, perhaps that's not his style. Which in this case is probably better for him, but we'll see. That wasn't Sankard either, too bad.
Yeah, you gotta build the hype, you know, every time it isn't Sankard, you gotta feel disappointed. So I greatly appreciate that you're following along on that one.
I mean, kinda have to, right? It's the thing. That wasn't Sankard either.
Yeah, that's 2 in this dungeon already, isn't it?
Was it 2 in this dungeon? I don't know if he found another one here.
Rooms are very disorienting when they're side by side.
I mean, it's all in the general vicinity as it is.
Nevertheless, though, with 10 hearts to work with, Gem's got much cozier health situation than you usually see in this dungeon, and Benteezy, still with 9 hearts, also pretty cozy as well.
Although right this moment he has 6, which is presumably about similar to what he would have in NMG. So it's all about that familiarity. We'll just keep the Sankard references rolling. Okay, now he's got 7.
Yeah, and there are a few health drops that he can get if he wants to get himself to Sword Beam strats, but it's a pretty scripted fight. I don't think we really need to do that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, both runners at this point making very quick work of Thieves Town, demonstrating very good execution. Not really taking any hits either, which is fantastic.
Yeah, this is definitely a place where the difficulty starts to spike upwards as far as the game goes. You see Benteezy taking a glancing blow there. I'm wondering, are we going to see a God Pixel from him?
Not quite, just a little bit to the left.
Although a very good recovery nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
Our first high 5 in a while.
That's true, too. Hey, Link. Bye, Link. I'm gonna go downstairs, I'm gonna go upstairs, so they'll make it through. But yeah, Thieves Town is actually one of the dungeons in Randomizer that can still behave very similarly to the vanilla game. In terms of routing, that the items that you have don't really make much of an impact on getting through it. So very, very familiar play for both runners right now.
And swords can become completely irrelevant in this dungeon, like you're saying. So, I mean, it's, you know, kind of interesting on both levels to see how similar to NMG it can be, and then, of course, how very different sometimes it is, like, you know, finding flippers on blind or some other weird exotic stuff. But we don't have a key to check the big chest, so, or at least to open the room to check it. It could be on blind, but it could also be locked behind itself.
I actually don't believe that the logic allows for it to be on blind, so at this point we're going to see either the map or compass on blind. Broken pencils are pointless, this is true. and we'll see how Phase 1 and 2 of that scripted fight goes. Release the spin. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes. It's a little bit annoying. You just release the B button a little bit too early and the spin gets off before your sword retracts itself.
Yeah, but very often you lose a hit from that.
Mm-hmm. Still a very, very nice fight, though. Very appropriate prize, too, considering that this is Thieves Town. Plenty of money.
We'll walk away rich, folks.
Mm-hmm. Not really needed money, though, because we've spent on pretty much everything that we need to at this point.
Well, hey, we've learned our life lessons. We've invested in the Hyrulean economy in better ways. Clearly, it's just making tons of cash off the dividends.
Yeah, and we got to dig a random field a bunch of times, too. That was fun.
I was trying to think of like a really strange pun with interring things, but nah, I just couldn't dig through it.
Well, I don't think tear has anything to do with this.
Well, I meant like the word inter.
And I meant the person. See,
I don't think
fun.
He appreciates jokes, though.
Oh, Tear loves me. It's okay. We can make the same thing have multiple meanings. And we can pick up a heart piece in the chest game and get a 11th heart. An 11th heart, excuse me. The big key straight away in Skull Woods. Makes for an immediate use of a bomb jump to find a small key, which will allow us to go right and get 2 more item locations.
I find it interesting that Gem opted to use sword buffers there instead of doing a dash bonk, which is kind of a safer strat. There's a difference between 2 and 6 pixels that you can line up alongside the ledge to do that bomb jump. So didn't take the safe strat, did something that was a little bit quicker, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely more advanced, and I gotta say, any sort of setup like that doesn't require a bonk or I guess any number of other things, really. It really impresses me to see. Like Tower of Hera specifically, that bomb jump has a very interesting setup where I've seen people drop the bomb before even getting up to the pit and just kind of throwing it against the wall at a certain spot, and it just looks so cool the way that some of these advanced bomb jump tech work.
You know, speaking of that, there's actually somebody who has done some tutorials on that in our chat right now, Gesellschaft. Actually, I've seen that practiced a lot, and that really blows my mind that you can throw the bomb and still do the jump that way. But there's a couple cool ones that I've seen from other members of the community where you can set up a bomb to put yourself right alongside the ledge, and then another bomb that was already placed to bomb you across. So, like, the creativity in this game, we're never running out of fun stuff to do in A Link to the Past.
No, definitely not. And there's always crazy, fun new things being discovered, too. Also, interesting that you mentioned Gesellschaft, because that is actually who I was thinking of for that bomb jump strat. I remember watching her practice it over and over again before one of her tournament races, I think in the fall. I might be mistaken, but yeah, that's exactly what came to mind. So, hey, props to you. And props to those Gibdos for body and gem a little bit. Not having too great a time in that room.
So Mothula with 5 hearts. This is a kind of tense fight. At least we have half magic.
We have half magic. We have plenty of magic left in our stock as well. Getting a few hits in. Taking a little bit of damage. Needs to be a little bit careful, but there we go. Finishes that off very nicely. And here we have Benteezy checking Hype Cave, getting his Fire Rod, and handful of other goodies, including the shovel.
Yeah, the relatively hyper cave than we've seen recently, cave. With that, Benteezy's getting nope out of there, and Gem's already taking care of Thieves Town and Skull Woods. This is a pretty hefty advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Skull Woods takes forever, but still.
No, that's... I get what you're saying, but I mean, it's just the way that it goes. The routing between entering from Swamp Palace or Village of Outcasts to get into the Dark World, I mean, you can't help where the items are placed. That's just how the dice were rolled in this one.
Well, Benteezy and Gem both able to find that piece of heart in the ground in just one dig. Certainly not falling prey to any NMG memes. And some nice spin speed here from Benteezy. That's something we haven't seen yet in this particular race. But when you have boots and you have a sword, you can hold out a sword spin, hit the dash button the frame after you release that spin. Game gets kind of confused about what movement speed you should have stored when you walk off the ladder. So if you move north or south off of a manual ladder or staircase, you'll start moving at run animation speed with the walking animation present. You don't have to turn to dash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the most amazing ways to just quickly navigate. It can be a little tricky in some tight corridors, but just makes it that much more fun, I think. So let's see what the blacksmith has. This is always an interesting check when you don't have the mirror. Of course, the mirror not being required in the logic for some time. Only 20 rupees. Nothing fun there.
Yeah, big 20 almost kind of a bigger insult than anything else.
I mean, at least it's a little bit of a return on investment, because you do have to spend 10, I'm sorry, just to get that.
Yeah, so technically not a bad trade. Well, looks like Benteezy, now that he's been to the Hype Cave with the Fire Rod, will now make his way over to Mothula and knock that out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Gem, however, is on a mad dash for Helmasaur King.
Yeah, at this point, not a bad play. Just get there, grab that crystal, knock that place out, and I don't actually know if Helmasaur is going to have an item or not. I didn't catch the inventory screen. But we'll find out as soon as we get into the basement and swap to the hammer. If it's an item, then fantastic. If it's map or compass, I mean, we could have put it off until later, but who knows? My question is, where are we going to find the next progress?
So looking at things, it seems like Hookshot is a major item for us right now. I'm thinking that we're going to find Hookshot in Swamp Palace, because that's a terrible place.
We certainly could, and if that's the case, where are we going to find the mirror? I gotta think that Ice Palace is actually kind of calling our name right now.
Yeah, that seems right.
It's about the only other location that hasn't really been explored. It is a green pendant, so that adds 1 to its value, making it kind of worth a total of 4 unique items then. And the hookshot is not always required for it by logic. Of course, we can do the bomb jump and skip that entirely, but Canis Samaria can sometimes be a replacement for the hookshot in the sense of being able to clear the dungeon.
Absolutely the case. Ice Palace giving us probably the most diversity as far as dungeons work and logic and routing. Palace of Darkness maybe being a close second in my opinion. But Gem's here in the Helmasaur King fight, and there is an item here.
Very nice Helmasaur fight at that. 17 hits to the face with the hammer will knock that mask off, and then only 1 with a silver arrow, because we mentioned how strong silver arrows are. And that's it, just for blue mail. Well, in that case, we know where red mail is. We saw that on the desert ledge.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we may possibly pick it up, but I think both of these runners are probably pretty cozy with just the blue mail.
I almost suspect that even if they had a chance to skip blue mail, they would have.
Yeah, I mean, they're past 10 hearts at this point, so certainly not hurting, for health or safety here.
Oh, sure. I don't think anyone's really going to mind having it, though. It just happens to drop, but either which way, are we going to see an Ice Palace play at this point? He's heading straight south. That would be the only other...
to do over here.
Yeah, that's basically the only other new location for Gem at this point in the Lake Hylia area.
So Ice Palace it is. We're not going to do anything like Go mode here, although he actually could, if he's a madman, dive straight down to Cold Stare.
Certainly within the possibility.
I've seen people do it.
I mean, it'd be pretty crazy if that paid off and, like, Cold Stare had the hookshot or something silly. And then come back in and finish the rest of the dungeon.
I think what you meant to say is come back in and find the mirror also in the dungeon that you skip from Go moding it. That would be the worst case scenario. So we're hoping that we don't miss anything. Gem just checks everything, makes this nice and simple for us on commentary here.
Nice use of a single bomb to kill 5 of the Pengators. Seems like he's done that room before with only bomb. Oh my. Oh my. There's our
I
hook
looked away
shot.
for half a second there, and he saved and quit. What did I just miss?
Hook shot.
Oh my goodness. So that's the other thing too is Hookshot being there, obviously he wants to head straight to Death Mountain. There's so many items to check here. But what if Mirror was also in Ice Palace?
You know, I think at this point, you just be glad that it was the very first item in Ice Palace, and that if you do have to go back there, it's not huge time sink. It's not like checking left side of Swamp and bailing on that initially or something. That's the only...
That's fair.
That's the way I'm trying to rationalize it right now, but...
However, good news for Benteezy, he's about to find it real soon as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only difference at this point then between our runners is going to be that Palace of Darkness crystal. You know, the other thing about checking Death Mountain right now is that it's going to get us our medallion knowledge for Turtle Rock, which could be the only medallion that we actually need, as Misery Mire is a pendant. We don't even have the flute. It may not ever show up.
Or at least nowhere that we need to actually go to. We may end up skipping over it completely. Well, big 20s paired together here with some bombs, a piece of heart, and a single rupee. This is a big day cave.
Quake also killing the Pengators. Benteezy considering doing what I actually would have done in that case and just sticking out the dungeon. But we'll see. We don't even know at this point if that's going to be the right play. There's still 2 items within the dungeon. We see Tempered Sword up on the the mountain island. But yeah, between 2 more non-dungeon items and Green Pendant, there's still a total of 3 items that Ice Palace could have. Any one of them could be our next progression.
Yeah, good news for both of our runners, though, to find that Tempered Sword on that island, because that's something they absolutely will go and get. And they have the Hookshot to do Hookshot Cave as well, so the routing's working pretty favorably for both of these guys today.
Yeah, between knowledge and where they're going being what's paying off. You know what, though? Here's the interesting part of this, is that we see it as they're doing this both at basically the same time. Meanwhile, in each individual runner's mind, they could be thinking, this is pretty much it. This is like my last set of locations, and still feeling like they may just be way behind.
Yeah, an hour and 3 minutes into the seed, and making these last-ditch efforts, for finding these items. That's a very tense place to be as a runner. And you eventually reach a point where you're just kind of glancing over the screen, like, when is that dot done gonna happen? And obviously, it's an hour and 2 minutes. We're not seeing it just yet, but
you hope not. I mean,
some of the items in relatively compact places, I could see where a runner would think, hey, maybe my opponent checks some things very, savantly.
Yeah, and each one of these runners know what the other is capable of. So to know that, I mean, even though they're making good progress, they've got a lot of very useful items. They've got 3 or 4 crystals each. They know what the other runner is capable of. So there could always be that looming thought of, well, if this is my last location, it's got to be Gem's or Benteezy's last locations as well. Just knowing that their execution is that sharp to cover everything in about the same amount of time.
So I find it very funny that the one medallion we need is the one we don't find, or we need for, we don't have for Turtle Rock, but we just found a Tempered Sword in advance of the floating island in the Hookshot Cave, so we're going to end up with Buttered if we want to, but they may just skip it at this point.
I fully expect them to skip it.
So blink and you might miss it, but it's a different sword up there now.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between Master and Tempered is absolutely huge, game-changing even. Whereas the difference between Tempered and Butter, still nice, but just not quite that same caliber of increase. Curious to see now what's going to be in Spike Cave. Gonna have to use that blue potion at some point to recover our health. We're not going to have enough to walk all the way through right now.
Yeah, it may have served him well to use the hook shot a bit, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Just going to take the heal.
Yeah, I think he would have needed to either which way. Tough to say, though. It's an interesting cave. Only a red rupee there. So that brings our options down to a pendant dungeon or a pendant dungeon. We can get back into Ice Palace, or we can take a long way back up and go to Tower of Hera.
I mean, I've always been a fan of Tower of Hera for, random, one-off locations. I find Moon Pearl there a lot, whether I'm playing the vanilla game or this.
I would, not to cut you off, I would hope that you find it there a lot in the vanilla game, at least.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But whether or not it's a perfectly executed bomb jump, that's another story.
Is that a joke to, like, falling back down if you do miss it? Like, you go down a story?
Oh, and by that I also mean mashing the reset button on my splits.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Though, it's better than getting dead rocked.
Yes. That
Shout out
much.
to Waffle House who died for our sins.
I haven't been to a Waffle House in like 15 years. Now again, I'm sure that's not the same Waffle House that you're talking about, but...
Suddenly craving it. Well, I meant Waffle 42, but he's the progenitor of the Waffle House.
Yes. And I think I first heard about that probably in the neighborhood of a year and a half ago.
Well, so now I'm successfully hungrier than I was when we started the race. Apologies for all the food references, folks.
Gives me an idea, then.
Spin speed there from Gem.
Yeah, nice little short trek with it. So how about waffle kebabs? That sound okay?
I've never really contemplated the matter, but I mean, in theory, why wouldn't you?
I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't just throw, like, delicious breakfast items on a stick and roast that.
I would attempt it. I would attempt that. I mean, waffle over pancake. Pancake probably wouldn't hold up very well.
Well, is it pancake or bancake? I'm not really sure. I'm confused with all the stuff in the news lately. Anyway, what's up with the Tower of Hera?
Well, literacy. Apparently reading is what you're going to find in here. So this is actually a very tall library.
So now I know how to spell IHOP. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm happy now. Let's go see Maldorm.
Apologies, I'm not following along very well.
Oh, I apologize then. It's like this big old thing in the news where IHOP changed the last letter of their P into a B.
all right, I'm definitely checking that out later. With that, though, a bumper skip from Benteezy and a mirror on Moldor.
So, this is the correct pendant dungeon to go into. Not to say that Ice Palace is not going to have anything else, because, I mean, I'm just going to say it then. Ice Rod could be in Ice Palace. We don't know, but we've got a hefty number of other options at this point. We can check out the Ether Tablet immediately, we can check Bombos Tablet, other mirror lock locations, and we can get into Desert, which is another crystal dungeon that's clearable at this point. We could even go through Swamp, so Ice Rod and Bombos are the only things that we're going to look for at this point.
Yeah, because we need that Bombos just to get into Turtle Rock, but beyond that, we're really not hurting for any items outside of the Ice Ride itself, which could be, of course, in Turtle Rock. So, remains to be seen where we're going to find these last two, but the hunt is on. We now know what we need.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess as far as advantages and disadvantages go, I mean, we talked about it before. Palace of Darkness has not been... Well, Helmless Sword King has not been defeated by Benteezy yet. However, other than that, though, they've pretty much checked everything identically.
Yeah, it's remarkable just how close and how similar the routing has been between the two. It's been made for a really, really exciting race. A little bit of routing divergence early on, but for the most part, they followed each other around step by step.
So I'm hearing some murmurs in chat about a potential Ice Rod on pedestal?
Certainly possible.
Now, if that were the case, then we might actually need the flute. So we could be looking at quite a few go mode items. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that there's a number of other options that could be in play. A number of things that this seed could still wind up taking us down.
Bombos almost giving us bombos. Maybe the cereal version, the bombos. Get it? It's a circle of bombs.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I liked it. Actually, it was a very explosive joke.
You know, we've been breakfast seed all day today, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, so like a cereal. Okay, and I get it. You know, the most important meal of the day is breakfast, and I admit I did not have that, and I've been awake for about 12 hours. So, not to say I haven't eaten otherwise, but I did not have my cereal this morning. My Hylian Mills cereal.
Yes. Being from the state of Michigan myself, where General Mills is pretty big around here, that's actually a very topical joke to me.
Yeah, something about a creek with a battle or something, or maybe that's Kellogg's. It's one of those big cereal manufacturers, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Names we're all very familiar with in this particular community. However, and by that I meant the state. But back to Randomizer. We're in desert at this point, and a bust so far.
Yeah, not really enjoying seeing that arrow capacity upgrade. Not usually an item that we're too short on, so those aren't the most helpful in general. But we'll have to see. This is going to wind up being crystal number 5 once we get through Land Molas and through the rest of the dungeon. And here we go with my arrow example. We saw that Gem picked up one of those anyway. Didn't pick up both, so I will eat my words a little bit.
But when you have silvers, I mean, how many arrows do you really need?
4. Just 4, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be an accurate answer. Well, no, I mean, it's an accurate answer. If you're inaccurate, then you're going to need more than that.
This is true.
Moving onwards, though, we will need 3 if we're going to use them against Land Molas. However, we have half magic, so, I mean, even if we don't, you could actually use Fire Rod instead and save a menu if you're really trying to squeeze every frame you can here.
This is true. Yeah, Land Molas being one of the most varied fights compared to the vanilla game. Just about everything will do damage to it. Fire Rod and Ice Rod will take care of each of them in 2 hits. Ice Rod a little bit difficult to control, just because it shoots a bit slower. Starts off slow too, and then accelerates, but still doesn't get terribly quick. Of course, having Tempered is pretty fantastic. It's one of the few fights in Randomizer that you don't really see with only like the NMG equipment. So wooden arrows are not commonly used in the Randomizer.
And it's definitely one of the tougher fights for that reason when you do have to do that. So it's one of the best blessings of this Randomizer, in my opinion. It makes this RNG a lot more fun to deal with.
It is the single most anxiety-ridden spot in an NMG run for me. So yes, I'm very happy to not use it.
Well, that rounds out everything in this dungeon. So with that, Swamp Palace and Turtle Rock, I get the feeling Bombos is probably, well, I don't know, it could be an Ice Palace.
Certainly could be. That's the interesting thing too, because we only saw the one item out of there. The problem with Ice Palace is that it takes quite a bit of time to go through. And I'm fairly certain we're going to wind up seeing a play into Swamp Palace before we even consider going back there. This is at least a crystal. It opens up the second Pyramid Fairy crystal. So we can clear this dungeon out and then head straight north. And that's a lot of locations between those two things. So definitely the right play to head south at this point and go to Swamp Palace.
And you raise an interesting point. It is the most friendly location to go to Pyramid Fairy immediately following dungeon completion. We're not going to have to save and quit or do anything. Literally walking straight north from here.
But in Swamp Palace itself, we have 6 unique items. And of course there's that dreaded left side, which could house both of them. Possibly neither. I don't know, at this point, when we're missing 2 items, some runners have a tendency to just go straight to the back and visit Argus. Some runners don't like to skip the left side at all. If you're looking for 1 item, it's fairly common to go straight to Argus. If you're looking for 2, what do you do in that case? What's your preference?
You know, I'm kind of a mad person in that regard. I almost always dive straight back to Argus, but logically speaking, and what's going to make the most sense by the numbers, yeah, it makes sense to full clear in this situation, I think.
That makes sense.
Of course, I would get burned by it, but, you know, as I say, not as I do, right?
Oh, I was gonna say it's randomizer, so you could check it and be wrong, or not check it and still be wrong.
Regardless of what you do, you should always stick to your plays. Well, so we're draining some water here, making our way further into the dungeon. Swamp Palace, you know, only so much that you can do in here as far as your divergence goes. You got left and back, and then with the hook shot, left becomes a lot less annoying. So we have that to also consider. If we had to do this without the hook shot, that would have a lot of impact on whether or not we'd even be here in the first place.
Absolutely. Because the bulk of this place is in that back area. Having to come here without hookshot is just never a fun thing. But we'll see, as both runners are here, I mean, it's nice to see them at least in such close proximity. Again, really only being separated by that Palace of Darkness crystal.
Yeah, so I mean, still a pretty tight race as far as we can tell on our side of things. Now, hour 16, I'm not sure how I would feel personally in their shoes, but I mean, they have been mirroring each other's decisions pretty closely here. I think Jem just got a first frame kill on that red berry, because I was almost certain he should have been electrocuted from that.
It certainly looked like it. Yeah, I don't know I don't know if there is a tell or anything on that red Baronade, or it's not a Baronade berry, I'm sorry. But sometimes when you go into the room, it's not shocking at all, and you can dash straight up and you're fine. Sometimes it's electrocuting right away. You know,
I've seen someone do a setup for it where you slash twice as you're moving to the right and then do a dash. If it starts off with the electrocution, and you'll always dash perfectly if you time it up that way.
Huh. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, sword buffer is pretty useful.
I mean, there's just so many little things in this game that you can manipulate and set up. And they seem small and insignificant, but then when they allow situations like that and allow 10 of those things, for instance, like through the entirety of a race or an NMG run, it all adds up. And speaking of things that save time,
yo,
that was sick. One of the most difficult optimal boss strats in the entire game, if not the most difficult.
Alright, so I hate to rain on the parade, but it was not unfortunately a zero cycle. He did get one spin with no puffs, but so not all the time saved, but it looks so good.
Yeah, really, really fantastic. And I mean, just wow. What can I say? Didn't quite get them all, but heck of a lot better than I could do.
So to kind of explain what we just saw there, you're doing a hook dash, which is an item dash. You press the item and dash buttons at the same time, but you have to have your sword held and outstretched in order to do poke and maintain that hook dash. So it's a lot of button presses, very fast, very difficult to do, and it doesn't save a lot of time. But it's amazing, and we love him for it.
Absolutely. Now, how much time does that save in general if you're optimal with it?
I mean, the difference between a 1 cycle and a 0 cycle, I want to say, depending on movement for Argus, somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds, I think.
Okay. So it's really not even that much, even though it makes it look and feel like the fight is just so much quicker.
Oh, Ben was going for it there as well.
Gave it an honest shot, got probably 4 or 5 of the puffs. Low on health, though. Got to be careful. He's getting hugged by an eyeball.
Oh no!
Ouch! Ooh.
That's really tough.
We just have a bee in a bottle and a heart container. Not a clue if that was Sankar either, because we already had full health.
Yeah, so far we have not confirmed or denied the veracity of Sandcart in this seed. Ben has, to the best of our knowledge, avoided it, though.
Yeah, I don't believe that we've seen it. So, Gem is... Okay, this is actually really, really nice routing. I'm assuming he's going to head to the Graveyard Ledge. Making nice use of hookshotting across the river. Hopefully we'll see a catfish play afterward.
Yeah, those are all pretty convenient chain of choices to be making. And going in this particular direction, very handy to have the hookshot to do so. So at this point, we just need that flute and the ice rod, and we can kind of wrap this seed up.
No, that's not either of those, so... well, it seems in an unfortunate turn of events, Benteezy is deciding not to continue.
Well, I hate to see it happen that way. However, it has been putting on a fantastic show for us here. Definitely very excited to have seen that zero cycle attempt, even if it didn't turn out, perfect or anything. Argus sometimes moves, random amounts, so you can't really predict if he's going to move just a little bit or a lot.
Right.
And that RNG kind of threw him in under the bus there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Hate to see it happen that way.
Well, I'm hoping he'll still join us for an interview. We'll check and see with him if he's interested in speaking about this seed, because this will be actually his elimination from the tournament. Gem will, assuming Gem finishes up the seed, will emerge victorious with 2-0 on the series.
Well, Gem will need to finish. That will remain a constant. But we do actually have Benteezy in with us, and we'll chat with him for a couple of moments before we get back to Gem finishing off the seed. So, hey, Ben, first off, dude, gotta say, really solid effort, really sad to see what had happened to you. Just what's going through your mind right now?
I mean, nothing much. We with the delay, we have so much time before you guys actually see what happened that my mind is pretty, clear now. Yeah, it was a pretty frustrating type of seed. The best play just gets punished over and over. Because things are at Agahnim and Catfish all game, every run. So the seed itself was pretty bad, but yeah, I'm fine personally.
When you're doing, I mean, what was it? Aghanim's Tower, and then learning even based on other item locations that the tower was not even going to be a requirement based on finding the glove and then the Titan's mitts and then the hammer. It's like it's something like that no matter what caliber player you are, you're gonna feel like these are the last things you're checking. Your opponent's already done it. You're behind. So yeah, I can totally understand that from a mental standpoint that this seed just was not terribly friendly.
Yeah, after I saw the boots on the pyramid, because I don't check lumberjacks, I was like, maybe this was required for a lumberjack item. And then I did pod, and I was like, there's nothing here. So, either lumberjacks has progression, or Aga wasn't required because we have flippers, so there wouldn't have been a reason for it to be required.
Sure.
If I was telling Gem, because we talked a little bit after I forfeited, in the runner chat, but I was telling him had I not died at the top of Aga Tower, I wouldn't have even felt that far behind, for doing it, because Aga Tower, yeah, it's an extra dungeon, but it's not really that long, especially if you execute it decently.
No, which I have to say you did both times. You flew right through it.
So I wouldn't, and then I would have just did things like I did in Ice Palace, where you open the first chest, get the item, and then just leave, because that's how you make up mistakes like that. I would have felt like I could have came back, but dying on Argus was just that combined with the death in Aga Tower is just do I really want to play this seed for another 30 minutes for him to done when I'm picking up my 7th crystal? Because Gem is way too good.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Certainly understandable. However, for what it's worth, you were doing really well to you make up the time that you had lost from, say, Aghanim's Tower. We had kind of clocked in about 2.5 minutes behind at that point. But by the time that
it's probably a little more, because when I checked the restream, he had already finished pod. I would have had to go back through Swamp, beat Argus, and then go through pod and beat Homa.
Right. So I mean, at the time that you had entered the Dark World, and then with the pod thing, that was actually the big separation from that point forward. But even then, though, I mean, any number of things can happen. Just of course, you mentioning Gem being good. I mean, it's like, yeah, I understand where your head's at. I would not want to bet that my opponent, who is at this point in the tournament, would make some kind of massive mistake.
Yeah, he eliminated me from last tournament too, so I've already experienced Gem's wrath in the past. The people that advanced out of my pool last tournament were Gem and Farami. So I'm used to Gem taking my lunch money. So my file names were Gem is mean.
I wanted to ask you about that. He was saying his file name suggested that he should be bullying you.
Yeah, me and Gem are good friends. We talk all the time on my Discord. It was a little unfortunate that we had to play each other, especially so early in the bracket, but I didn't expect to get too far in the tournament because I haven't really been practicing A Link to the Past. I knew I would lose to a player of his caliber, so I'm not at all upset about it. It would have to me placing, I don't know how many people are in the bracket, 128 or 65th, or 33rd, but losing to Gem in any of those positions, it's the same thing to me. So I don't. Would it be nice to maybe advance a little longer? I'm sure there are people that are more motivated to play the game than me at the moment, so I'm totally fine with being out in the first round.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing being matched up with a friend. It can really go both ways. It's you're excited for it because you've got that camaraderie and it's going to be a good match. Their style and whatnot. On the other hand, it's you don't want to be on the receiving end of any of those losses because. I mean, you're there for each other, so it's one of those situations of tough love.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing I could have wanted, would be to, give a better match on stream, which is unfortunate. Actually, I was talking to Imosaru about it, while I was waiting for the restream to catch up, and I think this is the first time I've ever been hit by, Argus's body in Phase 1. Ever, in my entire life. I've never been hit by Argus's body. Because I always normally stand under him and he has no hitbox under him. And for some reason I panicked and moved out. It's I was oh, today I learned that Argus does 2 hearts of damage. I did not know.
Yeah, Argus just wanted to keep on moving over that little bit. So, this does mark the end of your tournament life. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed it and have had a good time playing and racing and whatnot. You've definitely put on a good show. I know from my own experience, you've beaten me plenty of times. You are a fantastic runner, a great player of the game, and a wealth of knowledge too, in general. So well done to you. Props to you, Benteezy, all around.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I did enjoy the tournament for sure. It was hopefully future tournaments are structured a little differently. It makes it hard for me to want to be motivated to play well when the last 2 months essentially didn't matter because of random seeding. It's just who cares whether you win or lose? It's hard for me to give my opponents the respect that they deserve going into the games, and I feel that's just a little unfortunate. So hopefully there's a slightly more competitive format moving forward, so that everybody's really giving their all. But other than that, I think the tournament was fine. I like the recent changes for the bracket stages regarding the stream delay and all that stuff. I think that was much needed. So I'm super appreciative of the TO staff for taking steps to remedy those situations. And I probably won't ever enter a standard tournament again because me and Gem didn't get bombs 2 seeds in a row, and that's the most
you had to go right back to escape twice, 2 seeds in a row. So
it pushed us both into doing Agahnim for no reason, which probably wouldn't have happened in an open seed. I think having that kind of RNG at the very first 7 minutes of the run is just terrible for a competitive setting. Yeah, it's randomizer. Yeah, sometimes random elements to take the game, but I kind of liken it to poker when I describe it to people. It's yeah, poker has random cards that you draw and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, the better players usually are able to show that they're the better player. And the more RNG you add into it from the very get-go, like the harder it is for them to do that. So.
Well, that's what makes Randomizer such an interesting game, and certainly a source of inspiration for a number of people to play it in the first place, just that random element. So, we have Gem going through Ice Palace, as we suspected we may see again. There were still a couple of items remaining, plus the green pendant. Benteezy, thanks for chatting with us for these few minutes, and
yeah, thanks
again,
for having me,
sad to
guys.
see it end for you like that, but you know, there's feels for that, unfortunately, but
yeah, I mean, I wish Gem the best of luck going forward. I think like Gem was my favorite to win the last tournament. So like I think like Gem puts a lot of work in, and definitely deserves a lot of praise, and you know, hopefully an easier bracket moving forward.
I still think you put on a great show for us today. Apologies when you watch the VOD of this for how many references I made to you skipping Sandcard. It may have been excessive.
Yeah, it's okay. I've never watched a race back, so
Perfect.
You'll be fine. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.
all right, thanks, Ben. So here we go. We found a small key in the double Freezer room, not the progression that we're looking for. I'm going to set up for a bomb jump, make that very, very nicely. And it looks like we're just going to head straight to the iced tea room from this route. So interesting use of the bomb jump. Really, really creative routing within this dungeon. Another one of the more varied dungeons, I would say.
Yeah, right alongside Palace of Darkness, there are a ton of bomb jumps you can do in this place. I think there's like 7 different setups that I've seen, and sometimes 2 different directions across the same gap. In fact, I think the one traditionally known as Ice Palace bomb jump is probably the most plain and standard bomb jump we would even see in here. Like, I mean, it's probably the most commonly known, with the least amount of variance.
And I've always kind of considered the Ice Palace bomb jump, the main one that you're talking about, to be one of the most difficult in the game for me. And yet, these secondary, and not that it's a word, but third-area bomb jumps that you do in these other locations in this dungeon are actually, they can be a little bit more tricky. Specifically the one in the room that has the 4 red berries.
Yeah, that one you got to be on the very southmost pixel alongside the gap, and it's kind of hard to set that up if you don't have boots, or if you don't have, like, you're not setting yourself up with a bomb or something. Very easy to kind of mess around with that and get that wrong. But with half magic here, Gem's going to have no problems with Cold Sear, hopefully.
I suspect not. Very, very nice start to the fight. The eyeballs separated a little bit, but we've got half magic, fire rod, and plenty of magic left to finish them off. What are we going to find, though? 20 rupees.
Complete bust?
Well, we still have the green pendant. And if it's not there, then I'm not sure where, because I think everything else has pretty well been checked. And the crazy thing is that we might not even find bombos there. We could find the flute, which would take us to the Misery Mire area before ever finding direct progression.
Alright, so we got Sahaswala here, we have Catfish, small list of items that we can actually check. Turtle Rock, still possible.
Possible for a couple of things. We need to find bombos before anything else. Asrala, what do you have? 50 rupees, okay.
Not the explosive results we were hoping for.
No, definitely not. He's out of milk. We need to go to the store. Let's go visit Catfish.
Yes, not quite the grocer that we're hoping for, but may potentially still get us the access to the cereal that we desperately crave.
For your morning Hylian needs, eat bombos.
now in the bright yellow recognizable packaging.
On stores, or on shelves in stores everywhere that used to have Weetabix.
Yeah, the uncle left for that and never came back, so I'm assuming that that's a discontinued brand at this point.
Yeah, is it like Flaming Hot Cheetos too, where it's gonna be like spicy since it's an entire ring of fire?
Wait, I'm sorry. Run that one by me again.
I mean, like bombos. I mean, it's a ring of fire. So is it spicy? I mean, I wouldn't really want Flaming Hot Cheetos for breakfast or anything, but
possibly. Although I honestly thought you were going Johnny Cash on that reference.
I was not, because Johnny Cash is another thing I'm not familiar with.
Sang a song called Ring of Fire, but Catfish, possibly Johnny Cash Fish, today, giving us that bombos. So you fell into a Ring of Fire.
Nicely done. Well played. So now that we have bombos, I mean, we have one place left. We're looking for one item. Is it going to be simple? Are we going to find the ice rod within Turtle Rock? Are we going to need to go somewhere else?
Yeah, you know, finding the flute, probably the worst case scenario here.
I think definitely. And someone in chat's already hoping for flute on the laser bridge. Which, it could very well be, but if we find the ice rod beforehand, the flute could still be there then, regardless of where the ice rod is.
Well, of course, unless we find it very quickly in Turtle Rock, it'll probably take some time before we really know what's going on as far as the logic goes. Because up until you've gone to Laser Bridge, I mean, there's no real reason to leave the dungeon, say, if you find that flute, if there's still a chance that you could one single dip it. Well, as chat normally does, we're seeing some very intricate potential logical explanations for the seed. Hoping not to have any craziness, but Gem at an hour 36 is opening up to a rock and is ready to take on his final crystal. Now, I'm personally partial to the Chain Chomp room or the Bow Wow room, depending on which adherent in the overall Nintendo universe you are. Link's Awakening, of course, being the reference with Bow Wow. We'll find out shortly. Also, shout outs again to Benteezy, who was just now in the chat, who had to forfeit his race, or chose to forfeit his race after some, things kind of cascaded against him. Don't blame him. His opponent Gem's kind of really good at the game, so hardly fault you for that decision. But GG's to you anyway, and thank you for putting on a great show for us today, Benteezy.
Just a small key, just another small key. Not quite like heart pieces. You can't get 4 of those, put them together, and get a big key out of it.
That would be very handy in Palace of Darkness. Or Ganon's Tower, actually.
Yes.
That being said, we have everything here in the front part of the dungeon, so we're making our way to the next chest location here, the Chain Chomp and/or Bow Wow room. Very dangerous room normally, but with Blue Mail, we should be in okay shape. They're just being kind of annoying.
Yeah, still doing a good deal of damage. And we pick up the big key there, so we are going to have to go... I mean, I think either way, we would have needed to see the big key chest. So if that had been an item, then the big key would have been in its vanilla spot, but... since we're still missing an item, we're going to need to go check it out anyway. It's just a waiting game at this point. We're on a very limited number of locations left where the ice rod could be. And we're either going to find it here or find something that's going to take us directly to it. There's really no 2 ways around it at the moment. Although I don't believe we ever saw a pedestal check, and the ice rod could still be there. It's fully within logic.
Yeah, it would take some very fun item finds. I don't think we didn't miss anything in the overworld, did we?
I don't believe so. I really think that everything in the overworld was covered. Including obscure locations such as Spike Cave, Bolt Tablets, even all of Pendant Hera. I think we saw everything there. Yes, because we had Book and Mirror there, so we got the 2 items out of that dungeon.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll definitely find out by the time we get to the end of Laser Bridge whether or not Pedestal is still alive.
Yeah, you know, the most annoying part, I think, would be, if we find the flute here, we can't even, like, leave this dungeon and leave a portal here to come back to, because going to the Misery Mire area would require Dark World access anyway.
Yep, and absolutely right to say that anytime you go through a portal, you erase the previous portal you had. So while you could actually, there is a way to leave a portal back to the safety door here in Turtle Rock. You can't do it if you're going to leave the Light World. Mimic Cave is going to give us a convenient health refill, but not as convenient as a progression item. Narrowing down our choices here, we've got Laser Bridge and a couple of chests ahead of us. Small Key is going to get us into the room after the roller room ahead. But that roller room has another item, and then it's pretty much just Laser Bridge from there.
Yeah, so it's down to those last couple of checks. There's a heart container again. Could have been Stank Heart. We don't know because health was full.
At this point, probably, right?
I mean, yeah, how many more can there be? I feel like we've seen them all.
So 16 hearts, super cozy place to be with blue males, you know, not bad at all either.
Mm-hmm.
And Trinex shouldn't be too much trouble with half magic either way, but we might not get to fight Trinex just yet.
Here's a question, while we're waiting to see Laser Bridge. That switch in the otherwise dark room, I used to always think that you needed to put a Samaria block on that switch when I was young. Did you ever think that?
I did for the longest time, and then not too long ago finding the ice
rod.
Not too long ago, realizing that you can only have one block placed at a time. Also, on the very first item on the Laser Bridge was the ice rod, so that's going to put us in go mode at 1 hour and 41 minutes and about 25 seconds or so. We do not need anything else in order to finish up this seed. Chat already very upset about this. Come on, folks. You gotta let the trolls kind of, you know, slow down a bit when it comes to logic. Sometimes it's just gotta work out friendly.
I mean, every now and then the seed's gotta at least finish nicely, right? I mean, come on, chat. How many times have we seen seeds that start friendly and finish very badly? This one was kind of the opposite, I guess. We turned that upside down. I mean, doing Agahnim just to find out that you don't need to do Agahnim. I mean, again, for where the runners were at that point, definitely made sense to make that play. There's one location left, how could it possibly lead to all of the items required to skip Agahnim? But it did, as some strange luck would have it.
Yeah, that moment when we realized you didn't need Agahnim, that's my not link this moment. Like, you just gotta feel really rough about that. But hey, I think it's time that we are trying to figure out where something is in the tower, aren't we?
I think we're gonna be looking for the magic powder in the tower, right? We're gonna guess which chest that one's in, or no? That doesn't sound right.
No,
I think it's a door that has like a big lock on it, and we need to find of a certain size.
Probably get that started though.
So yes, get your guesses in 1 through 22. Find out where the big key is gonna be. Will it be left side? Will it be right side? Will it be? Well, those are the only two sides. It's gonna be one of those. I'm gonna guess chest number 14, regardless of which way we go through this.
Uh-oh. You also have faith in Bob. Today I'm going to guess 22 for Tower Room, just so that we see as much of this seed as possible. Get your last guesses in, folks. As soon as we see on the restream on your side that he's hidden the basement, we will be cutting that off.
So 14 is Bob's chest. I gotta be honest, I've got such a hard time counting it. But if we go right side first and then mirror and go left, then that throws that off.
That would be a 14.
Well, we don't have a small key, so can't go right side anyway.
Yeah, lack of keys, so those first two items, and then the third being the torch item for a big 20. So Bob will live today.
Yeah, we might have needed those 20 rupees earlier when we were still looking for Zora funds, but at this point it can just sit there.
And we got 4 through 7 here. We got a small key. Another small key. Let me guess, another small key.
Probably. Oh, well, hey, we found what I was looking for. That's good. And another small.
Also, I mean, that room was pretty important. It unlocked some things that we needed, and of course, you know, definitely a good safety to have powder, although maybe a little overkill at this point.
Possibly. But, I mean, again, it's one of those things that you're going to be okay to see. I mean, between the anti-fairy and the bunny beam up in that very top room, it makes for some very, very free healing before Moldum 2 and Ganon.
Yeah, and that would typically be the last gas before we hit Ganon, so definitely nice to stop at that last rest stop and, you know, take advantage of the heal. So that's been 8 item locations and still nothing.
Plenty more to go. Oh, and there's our nice new 10 bomb item. It's placed in specifically with this version of the randomizer because that's what Uncle can give you.
Yeah, apparently the uncle is so fast that he managed to run all the way to the Dark World, into Ganon's tower, up to this portion of the tower, and then all the way to the sewers before we even left the house.
And then I guess when he wound up fainting, there's our big key. Chest number 12?
That should be 12, yeah.
Should be 12. So Uncle would have needed all 7 crystals just to get here, but then I guess when he dies, he pulls a Ravio and all the crystals go back to the places that he borrowed them from, right?
Hey, I'm loving the Link Between Worlds reference. I 100% endorse that.
It's a pretty great game, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a spiritual successor to this game, so folks, if you like A Link to the Past, you should actually definitely check out for the 3DS Link Between Worlds. It's very fun, in my opinion, a successor to this. But congratulations to Big Dunka, who was the first supporter or sub to guess number 12. And you are our victor today. You're going to have a chance, or you're going to be on our leaderboard. And then, of course, you also win our love and affection.
Congratulations, Big Dunka. You know, I gotta say, too, one of my favorite things about A Link Between Worlds is possibly the cutest, most adorable side quest in all of video gaming.
Am I?
They are amazing.
Like they squeak at you when you're walking by?
Yeah. And then they do like the little item get chime when you do pick them up. It's just perfect.
It doesn't hurt that there's literally 100 of them.
No, I would have been fine with there being 200 of them.
Yeah, they're pretty well creatively hidden too. I like that they use the portrait mechanics to, you know, pop a bunch of them off the walls. It was a very creative game.
It really was.
And it definitely doesn't hurt that it's set in this world.
No, I mean that combines like a good sense of nostalgia with being just fresh enough that it's, you know, I guess in some sense it's almost like playing a really, really well-made ROM hack.
Yeah, parallel worlds, eat your heart out. Yeah, that's another thing too, folks. You may have played Randomizer, but there are lots of ROM hacks out there for this and many other games. Super Metroid's got a really big following as well. So if you ever feel like you're bored with, you know, or you're just feeling a little burned out on the rando, you want to try something that's similar to this, believe me, there's a lot out there. Just, I mean, look, search ROM hacks. I can't point you to any, you know, unofficial releases of a game directly anyway, but, you know, use Google, it's a friend.
And also, our friend is that half magic, getting through both torch rooms in just a moment. And still having plenty of magic to spare. Very, very nice tower climb by Gem. Very good gauntlet. Not Malden, wow. Wrong boss. Lanmo 2 went down with the same 3 silver arrows that Lanmo 1 did. And we're going to be out of here momentarily.
It's always a very fun time seeing that fast kill for Lammolis because of how annoying it is normally to beat that boss, particularly in the vanilla run, so...
It's very satisfying.
Get a little bit of revenge against him. Well, that's the Moldy Worm, or the Burger Worm, if you play Link Between Worlds. And we're gonna take on our favorite geometry wizard. So the Profe Gamer, somebody I commentated with not too long ago, had a very funny name for this boss, and I want to see if I can get it right. Agahnim tree.
Oh, I like that.
Shout out to the Profe Gamer. He's taking credit for that. It's amazing. I just couldn't believe he thought of that up.
Trigonometry. Oh, I even said that wrong.
Yeah, I was really struggling with it for a while.
Trigonometry? That.
Yes, exactly. That appears to be the sine, tan, and cosine that's involved here.
I suppose there's some deeply square-rooted references in that name.
Well, I have a hypothesis on that hypotenuse. That's 3 cycles, I believe, or maybe 4. The angle's working pretty favorably, though. Gem showing some expertise, knowledge of how to hit that.
Well, if that was... Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if that was 4, does that make it quadratic?
You know, I'm not sure about if there's proof of that. We'll have to check the VOD, but, you know...
Oh, darn.
We'll
one.
look into, look into that. The equation, though, today is going to be 12 sword slashes per cycle here, first and second phase. And the equivalent sword spins will work as well, so Gem managed to get a single cycle on the first phase. Second phase is a little more difficult, but the positioning's good, so should be 1-1.
I believe it was, actually. Yep, into phase 3 already, so nice. Another 4 slashes, 1 slash per jump. Not really sure what to call those, I guess, in phase 3. And then, hey, do you remember how many silver arrows we need?
You know, I believe you mentioned it before. The accurate figure to give to you when you ask that question is 4, but inaccurately could be more than that.
Well, we have 45, so doing a little bit of math, that's like more than 5 or 6 times that, so I think we should be okay. And there we go. Nice job, actually, manipulating this torch glitch just a little bit, not even getting torch glitch, in order to set up a triple to sort of manipulate its movement. That was fantastic. What a way to finish this. And that is going to be congratulations to Gem, who is going to be moving on after winning this match. Well done, finishing with an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, 51 seconds. You know, math's all about patterns, right? And that number's kind of alternating, and it's a pattern.
Yeah, you got real close to even getting the hundredths of a second on that. As far as the split timer looks like, at least on stream. Official Speed Racing TV time, potentially, you know, a fraction of a second different. But, you know, I gotta love that symmetry. That's definitely speaking to... I don't know if that speaks to you, but you can read it forwards and backwards. He won this race.
Yeah. I don't ever want numbers to actually talk to me.
Yeah, that'd be a strange world to live in. But we'll see if Gem is interested in an interview after this race, possibly get some thoughts on his victory in this particular round of the tournament, as well as his you know, tournament life going forward. By the looks of things, though, it seems like chat's pointing out that it'll be Gem versus Chex Human in the next round. So they may even start getting that scheduled right away. And Chex Human is present in the chat, scoping out his competition. Can't blame him.
Certainly going to be a good matchup there, then. Both runners, of course, very capable. And, yeah, like you said, they could start scheduling any time now.
Well, looks like we have Gem in the waiting room. I'm going to go ahead and pull him in.
Sure thing.
And we are joined by the victor of this race today, Gem. GG, and congratulations on your finish.
Thanks. Although, I guess the second race was kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm sure you noticed Benteezy has forfeited this race, and you know, that will give you the series. How are you feeling about this seed in general?
I hate it. I mean, I guess it wouldn't have been so bad if I just got to Catfish before returning to Swamp or IP, but in the end I just didn't have fun anymore.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's part of what weighed into Benteezy choosing to forfeit. It's just, you know, an extremely frustrating seed to try and play through. His words exactly on this matter were the best plays were being punished constantly, and can't blame him for feeling that way.
Yeah. Oh well.
Also, an hour 51:51. We noticed there's some symmetry there. It's a very interesting time, but a long race nonetheless. I mean, you've cleared almost everything in the world. Is there anything routing wise besides say Catfish that you think you might have done differently if you had another run at this?
Well, I guess I should have checked Agahnim and Zora earlier. I can't believe I never picked up rupees in neither AP nor Pod. I felt really stupid after that.
2 great opportunities. You completely skipped them both.
And then the Tulahan and Zora didn't even have progression, so that felt really stupid.
And it was a very odd series of progression at the time, because you and Ben made the play to get Aghanim's Tower at the same time, and it seemed like an absolutely perfect play, like it had to be what you needed, because, I mean, at that point you had Aghanim's Cave and Zora left. It's only 2 things, and you still needed at minimum 2 items to gain Dark World access otherwise. So the chances of both of those having what you needed were extremely slim.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, that would have been the play to make, to go to Aghanim's Tower, considering that. Who would have thought that gloves would have been somewhere leading directly to Titan's Mitts, leading directly to Hammer, and making that entire tower climb not necessary? That was probably one of the bigger curveballs that I've ever seen in this game play.
Yeah, it was a pretty big surprise. I guess the only upside of it was that I got boots earlier than I would have gotten them otherwise, so it was pretty nice.
This is true. Yeah, that was nice seeing them right on the pyramid.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. Like, I didn't even feel too bad about doing Agahnim for nothing, because boots just make the game fun.
Well, speaking of Agahnim, that was actually, the tower was a place where Benteezy died, and he ended up diving to Argus to finish off his race, but that was probably where we started to see a separation. You guys had about 2.5 minute split entering the Dark World, and then he kind of took off a little bit from there, but overall, though, it seemed like the 2 of you were making pretty much the exact same plays.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thing with us. We did it in our first race as well. We basically always did the same stuff. And then I made a slightly better quote in the end that got me the Master Sword earlier, so I could go mode everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, to reiterate all of our sentiments, it was unfortunate to see Benteezy have to take the knee the way that he did, but fantastic race up until that point, and we knew that it was going to be your 2 very, very high caliber runners, very, very knowledgeable with the game and its execution and mechanics, and it was exactly the hype race, strictly from an entertainment standpoint, that I was hoping for.
I definitely like to echo that sentiment, and folks, if you were as entertained as we were, and I certainly am, from the race that we saw today, you should give these folks a follow. They're definitely, pillars in the community. They run this Randomizer and NMG as well, between the 2 of them. So plenty of great content to see if you're into speedruns or Randomizer, whatever it may be. Show them some love. Gem still has a bunch of tournament left in front of him, plenty of real estate. We'll see exactly how deep that run can go. I'm hoping, Gem, that we see in the finals, yeah?
Of course.
That's the spirit.
Always the noblest of ambitions, so certainly a tall tower to climb, but you never know. Any one of the runners that we have left are fully capable. So it's certainly exciting to see how it's going to shape up as we go through the brackets. But that being said, GG again, Gem. Congratulations on your victory and moving on to the top 64 round of our brackets.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for commentating. Thanks to the tracker, Merc249. Yeah, and thanks for the restream.
Well, it's been quite a pleasure, and Merc did a fantastic job on tracking for us. It's been fantastic commentating with you, Udemagnistic.
Likewise, in the name of DT, I appreciate it. So looking ahead, we still have some Randomizer on tonight. Folks, if you thought that this was the end of the night, no. There's plenty ahead. At 6:30, actually, we have one starting in Speed Gaming 4 between Korek and Thalane. You may have actually caught one of the multilingual casts for that. Speaking of which, there actually are now the opportunity for some folks who speak different languages to do commentaries on basically any speed gaming event. There's still details kind of being disseminated about that, but we've been having some Spanish and French and I think German recasts recently, so that's been really exciting. But your best way to catch this tournament is to follow all the speed gaming channels. So whether it's Korek versus Thalane at 6:30, 7:30 Giselle Schaff versus TGH, speed gaming and speed gaming 2 through 5, absolutely the place to catch most of this tournament. And then of course ALTTP Randomizer and ALTTP Randomizer 2 through 5 as well. Other than that, though, we have matches at 9. Another one at 9 potentially for Korek and Thalane if they go to Game 3, and 11:30 Mentos Span 8 and Amazing Ampharos. Of course, plenty more on Sunday as well. So I think that's about everything we got for us here today. I've been Udaimonistic, joined today by In the Name of DT. Do you have any closing words for us?
Just again, I mean, great race to watch. Always a pleasure hanging out and chatting about some Randomizer. And I hope that it's been enjoyable for everybody around and everyone involved. And thanks to everybody for watching. And have a great day.
We'll see you next mission.